Hey everybody, happy Sunday to you. I hope all is well. I hope you've settled into this course and really understand the what's behind it. I know we haven't had really any assignments due, but that's changing this week. You have DB2 due. You are, yeah, DB2. DB1 was your introduction. So I want to encourage you all to really read the guidelines, read the instructions carefully so you don't lose points, because this is the first one. The intro, you don't have to follow these guidelines, but this one you do. So it's laid out in your syllabus. It's laid out in the syllabus video. Minimum 200, maximum 250. We don't want 100 words, and we don't look anything below 200. You're going to lose points for, as outlined in the grading rubric in the syllabus. I don't want a 700 word DB either. Nobody wants to read that, right? You want to be concise in your thoughts. And it's more than just nobody wants to read that. A, we don't, right? We don't want to take the time to read that much. But two, is that when you're with a client, you want to be concise with your thoughts and your words. Meaning, if I take the 700 word route, there's a potential that I'm going to lose that client in that conversation, right? So you want to be more concise, and that's one of the reasons this word count is in place. I can tell you I've done DBs with, in my college career, is with 100 words and 500 words and 700 words. And I think 2 to 250 is a good way to get your point out, get what you need. Remember, you have to have 2 scholarly resources. Use your textbook as one. It's already cited for you. I will put something in the announcements today, reciting it, and you citing the DSM and a few other things, maybe some AA books, just so you get the idea of what to do and how to do it. Remember, you must cite your work inside the writing and at the end of the writing. Please look at that APA video if you didn't. That's what it's there for. Or reach out to me before this assignment's due, and we can do a Zoom call. I have one here in about 20 minutes I'm going to do anyway to go over that, walk you through that, right, if you need that help. That's due on Thursday, your original post. You will then do 2 responses to 2 peers, 100 to 150 words, and 1 resource, and that's due on Saturday. Yeah, you use your textbook. There's your resource. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Your textbook's full of good information. Again, revisit the APA video and the APA tab in Blackboard for help. If you need more help, call the Writing Center. Contact the Writing Center. Contact me. Any way we can help you learn this, we can. So this is on ethical and legal issues in SUD counseling. I used to wonder, why do we have to take all these ethics classes? I never really got it right until I was in an ethical situation. But it's very simple. Don't sleep with your clients. Don't have them remodel your bathroom, right? Don't be in a dual relationship of any kind. Seems pretty simple. Don't rip people off, right? Yeah, and those are very simple to follow you would think they would be. You'd be amazed at how many licenses are suspended or revoked due to inappropriate sexual activity, business practices. You can look in the state website and see how many licenses are either suspended or revoked. It's really sad, actually. So, ethics and legalities. The legalities are tricky, right? When it comes to counseling, there's so many issues, and I would really encourage you. I've got a copy of the rules and regulations in the LCDC resources tab in Blackboard. You need to get familiar with those. I stated that in the syllabus video. It's not necessary for this course necessarily, and FYI, you could use that as your other reference if you needed to. But it's very important. It's what guides our licenses. You need to know these things at some point if this is the license you're going to go after, right? So, excuse me, that said, get familiar with those. It'll tell you exactly what you can and can't do ethically. And what I would say is, I worked at a facility for 9 years where they had their own policies, right? And now as an LPC, they have different rules and regulations. As a member of DAAC, they have their own rules and regulations. While many are very similar, there are some very different rules and regs, right? Then Memorial Hermann at the time had their own set of rules and regs. Memorial Hermann was accredited by a place called the Joint Commission, which then also had their own rules and regs. That's a lot, right? They're all very similar ethically, but there are some differences, and you always go with in my opinion, with the one that is the most stringent. Meaning, like, let's say, for example, the LCDC, I think you can, it's one of them, and forgive me here, I get confused, but it's kind of irrelevant for me because I don't take a gift from a client anyway. One is $25 maximum value, one is $50 maximum value. We don't take those gifts. I don't take those gifts. It's very easy for people to do that, but that eliminates all that together. One is a relationship, right? As an LCDC, you can't have a relationship once you see that person for the last time in the LCDC role. You can't be in a relationship of any kind for 2 years. LPC, I believe it's 5. Dan Caldwell's is forever, right? Because the reason for that is this, is what happens if, excuse me, they want to come back to counseling in 2 years or 3 years. You've then changed that relationship where they can no longer use you. Yes, there's other clinicians. I get that, right? That's not the issue. I want to leave that avenue open. So there's lots of things there. So as I was saying, ethical issues, right? They come up, especially working in a center. And one that I came across, and I didn't ask to come across it. It just happened in my lap, right? Those other things I mentioned, doing the right thing, basically, that's fairly simple to do, in my opinion. The issue that I came across was social media, right? I'm thumbing through my Facebook. I'm an old guy, Facebook, right? And this has been, mind you, this has been a decade ago. I'm thumbing through it, and I happened to see a colleague, their post of a party they were having. I don't know, birthday, anniversary, something. And there was a former client there who I know had less than 9 months of sobriety. I know because he was in the center. And while I'm not here to judge or to lay judgment on someone else for what they're doing, that's against our regulations and our license. And they're there for a reason, to keep our integrity, to keep our license as a whole. I take that very serious. So here I am. I have this information. Now I have a couple choices. I can ignore it, which everything in my principle says is not okay to do. So I go find a manager who I trust, not my direct supervisor, but a different manager who I knew would steer me in the right direction. And she said exactly what I thought she said. She said, well, have you talked to the director? And I said, I haven't yet. I came to you first. She said, okay, well, I'm going to give you a week to do that. And if whatever decision you make, I support you. But understand that in a week, if you haven't gone to the director, I'm gonna, because now I have this information and I can't keep it, right? It's about protecting a license as a whole, because in the counseling profession, sorry, I keep shaking. In the counseling profession, ethics is what we hang our hat on, right? We do no harm. We don't hurt anybody. And we are of the highest ethical value, right? That's what we bring, is integrity, and we model behavior. And our license as a whole really has an effect. Like, I painted houses for 20 years in another lifetime, right? And I worked for a guy for 10 years, and I painted for myself for 10 years, right? And I had a client, a colleague mess up something on a job or steal something. Like, that kind of stuff happens all the time, unfortunately. Like, at the end of the day, as a customer of a painter, I'll hire another painter. They're a dime a dozen. It's a labor issue that somebody else can paint the walls, right? Yes, there are people that can do it better than others. Absolutely. All that still stands. There's an art to painting, by the way. But all that said is, in the counseling profession, when you're talking about someone's health, someone's mental health, behavioral health, like, you can literally, you as a clinician can run somebody out of ever getting counseling again. Right? One bad experience, like an unethical clinician, why would I ever want to go back to something like that and open myself up? Much different than painting walls, right? Yeah, I may not like what happened in the painting industry, right? But I'll hire another painter. Like, I got to get my walls painted. When it comes to mental and behavioral health, that can have a great deal of effects on a person to where they don't want to come back to this profession. Why would they? right? So it's very important that at the very least you follow that, our credo, if you will, the non-maleficence, the do no harm, right? That's what that means, non-maleficence. I think I'm saying that right. I get crazy with the $3 words. But anyways, it's very important. I can't help everybody. I don't pretend to be a good fit for everybody. We try. If it doesn't work, I'll make recommendations. One thing you're going to learn from me is that we're as good as our referrals. And I'm sorry, my dogs are over here wrestling all of a sudden. But we're only as good as our referrals because I can't do it all, nor do I want to. There are people that specialize in trauma. There are people that specialize in EMDR work. There are people that specialize in DBT counseling, solution-focused brief therapy. There's CBT therapy that actually specialize in it, right, for a reason. There's people that specialize in, and there's a group called Psychology Houston that I love dearly. They have somebody who specializes in LGBTQI, in completed suicides for families. Like, these are specialties. I'm sorry, that's my dog. They specialize in these, right? I don't. That doesn't mean I can't work with them. There's people that specialize in marriage counseling. Doesn't mean I don't see some couples, right? But I'm not right for everybody. If someone wants long-term family counseling, that's not me. Short-term family counseling, absolutely, I'll do it. But my point is, I have resources for all of these things, and we're only as good as our resources, right? That's our ethical responsibility. I'm not really going to get into the legalities here. You'll read about those, and of course we can discuss them anytime. But I wanted to make this about the ethical issues. Like, there may be a lot more than you think. It's another ethical issue is it's our responsibility to practice self-care, to be at our very best at all times. Right? I can't have a bad day in my counseling session, right? Because that comes off across to my client. How is that fair for them? They're paying you for a service, right? So it doesn't mean I don't have bad days. It just means I practice self-care to manage those bad days so that it doesn't affect my counseling. Another ethical issue is again, resources. I got to have them. I got to know them. I can't just spit in the wind. Like, as an interventionist, I carry my counseling ethics over, and I don't send to a place I've never seen. I've toured resources all over the country because I want to lay my eyes on them. I think it's very important. Now, I'm not going to say I've never sent somewhere I've never seen, but it's rare. Like, if a family comes to me in an intervention and says, this is where we want them to go, I'm not going to say, no, I've never seen it. But we are going to talk about it. I am going to reach out, find out about them. But most of the time, I like to tour places for that reason. Is it inconvenient? Sure. Do I get paid for it? No. But does that make me a better counselor? Absolutely. Does it make me a better interventionist? Absolutely. Right. So these things are important. Also, ethics include staying on top of the latest news, trends, information through CEs, through conferences, through events, through networking. Super important stuff, guys. I mean, just can't stress these things enough that, we're all busy. We don't want to take time out to go to this CE. Well, it may be somebody you meet there that may change your whole practice or change your trajectory of your career. It happens, right? So anyway, guys, do your DB. Again, do Thursday original post. Follow the instructions. I need you to hear me on this. Follow the instructions. I took a lot of time to make them as easy to follow as I can. 250 words, 12-point Times New Roman double-spaced font. 2 scholarly resources, due Thursday, followed by 2 peer responses due on Saturday, 100 to 150 words. I look forward to with 1 scholarly resource. So remember, use your textbook as a scholarly resource. Then you really only need 1 for your original post. Guys, I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk soon.